applicable. And what really matters is how we work with ourselves moment to moment. It's not about the plan, the life plan. It's not about so-called prophecy and destiny. Destiny is constantly being rewritten when we work with ourselves optimally. We can move into any quote unquote timeline that we truly desire, but we have to master our attention and intention. And then that's when we actually start to taste our own immortality and our own ability to manifest and create without any limitations. I hope you're enjoying this very important video. I want to make sure you're aware that I'm going to be teaching a class whose subject matter is so controversial that I can't even put it on YouTube because it'll get taken down right away. But it's the second link in the pinned comments below, and I'll be sharing information and know-how and steps that you'll never hear anywhere else but here. I'll see you there.
I would want to go back to what you said at the beginning about how the spiritual community could almost be aligned with mainstream media. And, you know, for myself, I've found it puzzling to hear channelers with these doom and gloom messages. So I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about entities in general. You know, like, can these channelers actually have negative entities with them? And then, yeah, maybe just a little background on entities in general, you know?
Sure, yeah, okay. So I might have said, I do a lot of talking, Kyle. I might have said in some interview that a lot of the psychics and mediums and channelers that are popular on the spiritual entertainment news networks, they have entities and they don't realize it.
Yeah.
They actually don't realize it, okay? Now, let's back up 1 second and I'll answer your question. Channeling or any kind of psychic ability is a skill. It has nothing to do with wisdom. It has nothing to do with discernment. It's just a skill. That's like someone who's very adept at blowing glass. We would not say they're wise. We would just say they're skilled. Or someone who's really good at doing the hurdles, right? We would not say they're wise. We would say they're skilled. And we have conflated skills of channeling and psychic medium with wisdom. They don't have anything to do with one another. And I think that's now becoming tangibly obvious to many people. Okay, so if we go back to entities, the first part of your question, let me give you an example of what I see when I, unfortunately, tune into maybe the shows that have had me on before. So an astral entity, okay, and if we know what astral entity, I'll give the briefest of. The astral realm is the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh frequencies. They're not dimensions. We're not in the third dimension. We're in the third frequency of the first full dimension, which is where all the entire physical universe exists, within the first full dimension. And after the first full dimension, from a human perspective, there's no such thing as any tangibility or solidity. So energy exists in frequency. Energy does not exist in dimension. Dimensions house frequencies. We're in the third frequency, going into the fourth frequency. And the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh is the astral realm. Now, an astral entity is something that cannot sustain its own life force. It's like a parasite. It has to feed on other energies. And those entities that exist in the fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh feed on the energies of what is beneath them, if that makes sense. And so the more low frequency energy that we emanate, the more that we feed them. And now you can see why Hollywood and everything is always negative. Everything's always doom and gloom. Everything is always fear. Pornography is everywhere. It's because that way we just keep emitting these low frequency emotions. And that's actually the sustenance that's used by astral entities. Okay. So what I'll see with channelers or psychics or whatever you want to call them, they're getting information, and they are getting information. They absolutely are getting information. Some it's just their own imagination, but some of them are actually getting information. But what they can't differentiate is that an astral entity can very easily dress up in the astral form, because astral entities can read the mental body. They can flip through the Rolodex of your memories and pick out images, things that scare you, or things that you were very hungry to understand, and they can actually flip through your mind. They literally can, because they're operating in a higher frequency where they have access to what we call the mental body. So some of these astral entities will see who it is, that you're desirous, again, you're reaching outside of yourself, reaching outside to connect with grandma, grandpa, Archangel Michael, this, or the Pleiadians, pick something, it doesn't matter, right? So the very idea of reaching out is backwards. The self contains everything. Okay. So as they reach out, they're using your desire against you. Now, how they actually do this is they will find the image of what it is that you're looking for within your mind, and they can literally dress themselves up within the astral form of what it is that you're trying to reach out. And so then the psychic or the channeler then sees Archangel Michael or grandma, whatever, pick something. Now sees it and like, oh, I'm now talking to Archangel Michael. I'm now talking to my grandmother. Actually, you're not. What you're talking to is an astral entity that has cloaked itself in the astral form of who and what it is that you're trying to connect with. And now, because we don't have enough discernment and enough wisdom to actually question and see past just the visual, we just go with it and think that I've connected with the Pleiadians, I've connected with my grandma, I've connected with Archangel Michael. You've connected with an astral entity that's fooling you. And that's where we get the doom and gloom from. So that's one, and I've witnessed this and actually watched this. I've even, on occasion, I've explained it as someone was doing it, what's actually happening as they're channeling. Anytime we reach out, the idea of reaching out, by the way, is something we can talk about. That's backwards. But the idea of reaching out, anytime we do that, we are, myself included, we are putting ourselves in position to be used and abused by energies that we don't understand. And so, from my perspective, and from every authentic master and mystic, they've never talked about make sure you can channel. They've never talked about reaching out. They've never talked about trying to contact your guides and helpers. They've never talked about that for a reason, ever. It's all about the I am and the inner guidance system. That's what it's about, using your own tuition. And then simply what I call Clark Kenting it, which is when Clark Kent sort of pulls his business suit apart and then you see the Superman outfit. That's when we work and go within. What we're doing is we're pulling back the veil of personhood and tapping into more of the I am, which contains everything, which is a fractal of God. So when we're trying to reach out and connect and do all these kind of things, that's when the problem arises, because we don't have the discernment to really understand what's really going on.
Now, can channels be channeling while still going within? And how would you advise somebody like myself and Leah, who's trying to run a very, pure channel, to have the proper awareness to make sure that who we're having on isn't spreading, or taken over by some negative entity,
Well, the first dead giveaway is negativity. Doom and gloom, chaos, madness, upheaval, destruction. There's no authentic guide or helper that ever speaks in that way. Ever. Well, so that's how you know. So if they're giving you predictions of this and that, they don't really know what they're tapping into. Another thing that you have to be leery of is people's own thought patterns. They've become an unclear channel because their own beliefs are getting in the way. So really what they're channeling is just a bigger version of what they most desire through their own beliefs. So when we actually tap in, it becomes quite neutral. There isn't a left or right. There isn't a good or bad. There isn't up or down. So that's part of how you know if someone is speaking in that way. The other thing is, Kyle, I would focus on prescriptive teachings. I would focus on what is applicable. I would focus on what can improve our day-to-day, moment-to-moment life. And if that includes time out, let me go into my room, put my headphones on, light my incense, and get my crystals. And I love incense and crystals. Right. So as I make fun of them, my house is like a crystal cave. But the point is that if we have to take time out, then I think we're not doing it correctly. So I don't even use the word spirituality or spiritual anymore, because it's been completely and utterly hijacked. I only speak in terms of metaphysics or what is. So the ability to work with oneself optimally, that's actually the only thing that's worth anything. Because if it doesn't apply to your everyday moment-to-moment life, it's useless. It's absolutely absolutely useless. And the stuff that's being taught about automatic writing, channeling, and psych, how does that help you with your relationship with yourself and with your significant other, or your kids, or your neighbors? How does that even play into that? And this is what I mean about it being the false light. It should be actionable, tangible, immediate, and improve the quality of your life across the board. And if it doesn't, then it is strictly ego mind identity or the false character reaching out for getting a bigger and more inflated version of itself.
Could ask 100 follow-up questions. I'll let
My
you in.
turn.
I'll let
No,
you
I'm
in.
just kidding. You have another question?
Well, I would just say it seems like we're in this age, of the truth coming out. And will this be a part of that? Where channelers, whether they're speaking, from that inner wisdom or not, or just anybody speaking from that inner wisdom, is it all going to get found out? I guess it's just kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I mean, I believe so. I think it's happening right now.
Yeah.
It's literally happening right now. Enough people are sick of watching someone else predict the future through channeling, through destruction of this and that. Just tired of it. It just doesn't even resonate anymore. So the real key about this, Kyle, is detachment. So you can think of it as observer. It's deeper than that. But you can think of it as being the observer, because even if you know that you're the observer, that means that there's something observing the observer. So we're not quite there, but it's a step in the right direction. So when we detach from what's going on by being fully present, so when we're fully present, you can think of that as meditation, and the easiest way to do that is to simply pretend that you just arrived here, no past, no future. And now the program stops, and now you're present. Now, once we're present, the inner guidance system is on. And once the inner guidance system is on, truth will resonate. It'll be automatic. You will know. And that's actually how you do it. And remember, the truth doesn't require your participation. Lies do. So it's when we make this shift about being present instead of reaching out, the inner guidance system is on. We will know what to do, what not to do, when to do it, what to say, who to say it to, and how to say it. And that guidance is our own intuition, because the intuition is the I am speaking in pure energetics that gets translated by the mind into actions or into ideas rather than thought, which is past and future. So it's detachment, locking into the inner guidance system, which gives us discernment, and then the truth will resonate. And once we start to work in that way, and only in that way, because the finite mind cannot discern intention. It's very easy to trick the finite mind. If it just makes logical sense, the mind gets pleased. It's like the mental masturbation. If it fits like a logic and linearity program, that's soothing to the mind, and the mind likes that, and it just says that makes sense. But it doesn't understand the intention behind it. Soda looks good and tastes good, right? It's poison, but it sure looks good and tastes good, doesn't it? It's very pleasing, right? It's poison. Detachment, inner guidance system, discernment, truth will resonate. This is the future of humanity. As we start to take our attention away from realities that we don't wish to build, then we will then realize that we are writing destiny every single moment that we're here.
You talked in terms of channeling about these higher forces, and I'd love to hear your perspective on just, it's almost hard to believe there's not when you look around. Is there not an actual force of evil or Satan or something? Because even, there's some ideas that are actually really popular now that you'd almost be afraid to speak out against. And when you get down to it, they're just really evil.
Okay.
So is that its own operating force?
Okay. All right. So when we use words like evil, good versus evil, how many times have we heard that? This is the battle for humanity's soul. Okay. Right? I mean, please. Okay. So we've heard that 1,000 times, right? All right. So when we use the word evil, first thing I want us to look at clearly from a very detached perspective is that we're viewing things through a religious perspective. Okay, so anytime we're viewing things from a certain perspective, it's kind of like taking a snow globe and you shake it and the snow's going. You can't really see clearly, right? Because you're viewing it from a perspective. You're viewing it through a dirty windshield, and this is where we get good versus evil. Okay, evil does not exist. Does not exist. That's a religious perspective. Now, what does exist? We'll expand on it. What does exist is there are, I'll use the word entities. There are entities that have gotten so far from who and what they really are, which is love and wisdom, whose subsets are talents and abilities. That's what the I am is. That's what the fractal of God is. It is our depth, our level, our amount of love and wisdom. There are some entities, and I'm not using the word beings, those are two different things. There are some entities that have gotten so far away from who and what they really are that they actually have lost all conscious connection to love, to their own love, and therefore they are incapable of being that love or expressing that love. And so therefore they're able to operate in a way that, from a purely metaphysical perspective, they're able to operate in a way that is completely and utterly low frequency. Because there's high frequency and low frequency. That's metaphysics and that's tangible. I don't talk about good versus evil and spirituality and all this other utter garbage. So these entities have moved away from their own love, who and what they are. And therefore they are able to operate in a way that those that have been brainwashed through religion, like most of us, they would call it evil. It is not. There's no such thing because it's all God. It's all God. We've just gotten far away. Some have gotten very far away from their own love and wisdom, and that's how they can operate in the way that they do, and then we label it evil. Now, I hope that makes sense. So, without predatory type energies, like a shark, is a shark evil? No. It's hungry. It's hungry. Is it angry when it jumps up and bites something to eat? Is it angry or is it hungry? It's hungry. Is a lion evil? I mean, I don't think so. It's hungry. Even as it grabs that little gazelle, as difficult as it may be to watch, it grabs that gazelle and eats. It's not angry. It's hungry. Okay. So if we can start to see things clearly from a detached perspective, we'll just start to understand that there are absolutely predatory energies. I just named some predatory energies. There are absolutely beings that operate in a predatory way. But without them providing the evolutionary tension, there wouldn't be evolution. So this is also difficult for the finite mind to work with. We need evolutionary tension, which makes us Clark Kented and reach within ourselves and bring out the best in ourselves, to tap into more of our love and wisdom and our talents and abilities. And that is what evolution is. So there has to be evolutionary tension. I mean, we're the ones that created these bad guys. That's a whole other conversation. We're the ones that created these bad guys. It's a long time ago, a very long time ago. The origination of the human experiment, which is the individualized experiment in free will. That's a human being is, an experiment in individualized free will. And when this first started, a very, very long time ago, when we would show up here, it was like we were all just sitting around singing Kumbaya, and there was no evolution. Nothing was happening. So we actually created and pulled in bad guys to create evolutionary tension for our own evolution. So there's so much more that goes to this that our conditioned mind can never really understand and also can never really access. And then we try to take this much, much larger picture that we don't really have access to, and then we try to reduce it down to something. And that's where we just get confused. So when we have a question, a burning question, this is going to sound bizarre, but just go with me. We have a burning question about something. Instead of seeking the answer, give yourself any answer you want to that question. Any answer. and then see if that's satisfying, and then see if that stops the questioning. Now, what you're going to find is that when you give yourself any answer, it doesn't matter what the answer is. You never actually feel better, and it never stops the question, right? Which you just experienced. Now, this is profound. Now, what this means is that answers are irrelevant because the questions don't matter. Now, with this understanding, we're getting closer to liberation. So instead of seeking answers, because it doesn't matter what the answer is, because we now understand that questions are irrelevant, the key is to go to the source of the questioner who keeps asking questions, and shine the light on the questioner, which is just the fragmented egoic mind. And once you shine the light on the questioner by doing self-inquiry, you'll realize that that is a shadow and it'll disappear as soon as you shine your light on it. Now what remains is the real you. So when we operate backwards from the way that we have been told to operate, reach out, figure out, connect with this, connect with that, think it through, do the opposite. Do the opposite. We just had that tangible experience about giving yourself any answer. It doesn't change anything, does it? That's because the questions don't matter. It's the fulcrum that the program that is running, which is the ego mind identity, which is voracious, because it's here and it's disconnected from the source of knowingness, which is the Superman, which is the I am. And so once we lock ourselves in the present moment, the program stops running and the inner knowing will start to take over. And then we create from it limitless space rather than trying to figure out within the boxes of limitations that we're running within our programmed mind.
Well, now we have no more questions.
No. I still do. Maybe I failed. Maybe
present.
Maybe I failed the exercise because I still have plenty more. So, I want to just keep going back to everything you've been saying because my mind's blown open. But basically, thinking about just going outside is, can be a source of a problem, I guess. Thinking about everything you've said about the ascended masters in past interviews being such a positive influence, is that because they're inside or is it different?
Okay, but yes. Okay. The self is whole and complete. It's a fractal of God. That's what the I am is, right? Okay. We are literally a fractal. It's like if you have a big glass of water and you literally take one drop out of that big glass of water. That one drop is H2O. It's just like the big glass of water. It's just less in volume. It's exactly the same though. Just less in volume. So that's what we are. We are exactly that. We are a drop, a fractal, however you want to say that, of God. The I am is God. The I am is whole and complete, just like God is. God is not lacking anything or missing anything. God is not all-knowing, because God is learning about itself as its creations create to learn about itself. So this misnomer about God knows everything is absolutely incorrect. From a human perspective, God certainly knows everything. And the next book that comes out are conversations that I have with God that explain these things from a purely metaphysical perspective about what this is really like. But the self is whole and complete. So what that means is there's nothing outside of the self. This is putting us in a state of delusion and illusion. And that's why it's disempowering, because it's inauthentic. So the idea of the ascended masters, what they have taught, and those that keep showing up continue to teach, is to go within. To go within and access more of the I am, which is where the source of knowingness is, and all questions stop, all incompleteness stops, all limitations stop, all seeking of security stops. The only security is the I am. So when we reverse, remember, ego mind is always outward, right? The I am within. There are many rooms within my Father's house. It's this. And once you start working in that way, everything changes. You're no longer looking for answers. What you're experiencing is more and more of yourself, and then the ability to simply express yourself. You're not seeking anything. There are no questions. You're not trying to achieve, acquire, or become. You are whole and complete. You have realized the self-realization, and then it is simply about expressing and sharing your depth of love and wisdom, whose subsets are your talents and abilities. The ascended masters are a small group, 13 of them, are a small group of beings that represent an embodiment of what it is that I'm speaking about. And they all think of a pizza. So if you have a pizza and you cut it into, let's say, 12 slices, right? You could think of each one of these ascended masters as being one complete slice of the totality of existence. So Paramahansa Yogananda is the master of love. Buddha, who was Thoth, who was Hermes Trismegistus, Buddha is the master of wisdom. Christ, or Master Sananda, is the master of purity. Saint Germain is the master of alchemy and magic. Sri Yukteswar is the master of the will. But if you start to put them all, and I could go on and on, but I won't. You start to put them all together, you have the totality of all existence, and they are an embodiment of one of those pieces. And their being here is the tangibility and reflects back that inner perfection, our own self-realization reflected back. And that's really the role that they play when they come here. They have mastered themselves. They have mastered themselves, and then therefore it's tangible for others, and they can see it. It's not just talking the talk, it's walking the walk. They can be around that energy. They just basking within the light that emanates from one of these beings is actually what changes this planet. And contrary to popular spiritual fiction, the ascended masters continually reincarnate over and over and over again. Most of them are not recognized until well after their lifetime, and then you look back at their life and their body of work, and you say, oh, well, obviously, that was an incarnation of an ascended master. It's more rare that they're recognized during the incarnation, but they are the true teachers of humanity. Make no mistake about that. They are the ones providing the catalyst for our own evolution by being an embodiment of a higher level of consciousness.
You talked about and I think was such a great idea. I've done this before where you just pretend that you're landing right where you are. Like it's like, hey, I'm on Earth right this second. I would love for you to talk about any other techniques or practices people can do to just strip themselves of their personhood and everything they're carrying and be more in the present.
Well, I have written 3 books so far. There's a 4th coming out, but I've written 3 books so far that all of them are kind of that. I've made course after course after course that I teach that are really all about that. There's what I call a meditation masterclass that people can buy, and it's got all of these instantaneous meditation magic tricks that brings us to the present moment in instant meditation in 1 second, which breaks the spell of the ego-mind identity. So another one is simply to say to yourself, I don't know and I don't care. Now, when you do that, which some of you probably just did, when you do that, the I don't know, the I don't know metaphysically what's happening beyond the physical sensory perceptions. You say, I don't know. What you're really doing is you're kind of emptying the mental container. So the mind goes blank. I don't know. It's like you almost wiped it clean. Mm-hmm. And then when you say, I don't care, you're doing the same thing with your emotional body. So that container, what's happening is the source point is going previous to what created it. But it's emptying the mental container and it's emptying the emotional container. So by saying, I don't know and I don't care, instantaneous meditation, you're completely and utterly fully present. So that's another one that we can do in 1 second. Another one that we can do is, we've all seen a periscope on a submarine, comes out of the ship, right? Okay. So, and the one that's looking through that periscope is the captain of the ship, who's way down deep in the hull of the ship, right? Okay. Now, behind that periscope, those binoculars, viewfinders, however you want to describe it, there's no computer behind it. There's no brain behind it. It's pure awareness. It's pure awareness. No analysis, which is your conditioned mind. No analysis. So if we can allow ourselves to use this as the periscope, pure awareness, sight, hearing, taste, smell, pure awareness, no analysis. and start to feel and realize who is looking out and from where. You'll actually feel something right here. And you are the captain, way down deep in the hull of the ship. And that's the I am. And this is a periscope. And let yourself feel that presence right here. Now, all these things, and there's a ton others, but all these things only take 1 second. And by being present, you just flow. The beingness is online. You just let the beingness flow into the doingness. You don't have to call upon your conditioned mind. Flow state is being completely and utterly present and completely and utterly engaged in what you're doing. We all know what that's like. We've done it when we're dancing, writing, cooking, making love. It's when we're completely and utterly engrossed and engulfed in what we're doing. That is flow state. Now, there's no thought, because thought's electromagnetic interference. It's not your true signal. The flow state, because we are the life force, the flow state, by just doing a magic trick in 1 second, you're now online, and let that beingness flow into your doingness. Beingness flowing into the doingness, which doesn't require a thought. Now, these are some of the things, and there's hundreds more. These are part of what I teach, what I write about in the classes and courses. And then to take that many, 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 many levels, quantum leaps past that. But that is the understanding. It's as simple as getting yourself present in 1 second, and then allowing the beingness to flow right into the doingness without stopping to go into the conditioned mind and then doubt yourself.
I might periscope all of tomorrow.
Yeah, I was thinking all the time, but again,
I love
get in trouble for saying, I don't know, I don't care.
You better care.
Doing these meditations around the house when you're asking about the laundry. No, I'm just kidding.